All right, hey guys, Sam here with you. We're midday, Thursday, April 5th, and members requesting Bitcoin for video analysis today, so we're going to do it a day early. So here's we're coming into the critical junction right now. So here's the question. So if you're As anyone who watches my videos knows, I'm certainly a long-term bull, and the question becomes, is there a way to get out of this without breaking this low? Can we find a count that works here that avoids what some would tell you has very high probability, and that's this move. If we look from that swing low to our double top in here to the 50, which our algo target down here gives us a target around 3,200-ish, right? Is there any way out of this without ultimately reaching that target? And this would be sort of the last case I could make for bulls, because we know there's going to be an explosion if we take out this pivot. There'll be stops, of course, sitting under that pivot. So there will be fuel for that to spike that adds to the potential of this ultimately coming down to 3,200. Can we get out of this and complete down here that in a way that's technical, that's consistent with Elliott rule set, that gives us a way to complete and set up what I'm looking at is a potential double bottom? I mean, as I've pointed out to a number of members, we had a very nice double top up here. No reason we couldn't have a double bottom down here, but it's got to fit and it's got to make sense relative to where we've been, and the Elliott wave rule set that defines how we approach the market and gives us structure and a set of rules of which you make that decision, right? So if you're going to be an Elliott wave trader, then you commit to that rule set. And there's many times, as there are right here, where it's really tempting to go, what does it matter? So the third wave's the shortest. What does it really matter? Well, that's if you take that stance and you're willing to just break the rules here and there when it suits you, then you're not an Elliott wave trader. It's the discipline of following that rule set that is the true advantage of trading with Elliott wave. So it's really frustrating here because you'd love to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You just can't do it. It's just this can't be 1, 2, 3 because this is our shortest wave. Right? Can't make that fit. So what else could it be? Is there any way to get out of this without breaking this pivot and then keeping this internal as a retracement, or setting up a double bottom so that we come down here, challenge the low, and hit it at a technical pivot that would give some fuel to the other side of this? Well, it's a last stand, no doubt. The double bottom scenario is a last stand, but there is a case that can be made here. So knowing that we have that 3,200 down there as a target, let's pull this off just to clear up the chart, and let's dig in a little bit more. Now I'm here on a 3-hour on Bitfinex, all right, where I have a lot of members are trading this. I'm on Bitfinex, I know. Yes, Bitfinex. Okay, so let's get a look in here. Let me get this to auto. So, what's making Bitcoin so difficult here is this, the structure here. So we have 5s, 3, 5, not the prettiest 3, but it's there. Now, if we just work backwards on this, we can certainly see a nice 5-wave structure here, but this is which gives us this potential scenario here, this dashed yellow line being that critical pivot. So we have a 5-wave structure here. We can see it unfolding. It's just beautiful, right? So a nice 1, 2. We've got all the subdivision we'd look for in the 3. So we can start to measure there, and we can look at this and say, okay, well, simple measurement. If I take the length of the third, right? So my fourth comes in right where you'd expect it. So this was for short sellers. That was just textbook, right? Just a beautiful short. We had all of it was there, all set up for that pivot at the 38. We've got our target down here, but that target is below our pivot. So a challenge of this pivot that, with the fuel that's likely there in terms of stop volume, that could easily push us to our second target and beyond. We know 3,200 is the algo target from the larger swings. So working backwards now, if this were playing as an ABC, as I've got it marked here in blue, if this were an A wave, and we had, you can see what I'm looking at here. So this coming down here, if this is an X wave here, so backing, let me back you up a little bit. So one possibility here is that we've just done an ABC and that we've done yet a second ABC, which would offer us a corrective wave potentially as an X wave, right? So this is, one alternate count, right? Nobody really knows where we're going here, but these are alternate counts that would create a path for that to play. So we'd have the W, we'd have a 3-wave corrective X, right? Always correcting, and then we're looking to connect to a second ABC. So I propose we've got that potential here coming off of the X wave. We get a clean 5, a very clean 3. Then here's our problem wave here. We get perfect subdivision into a 5, great subdivision in the 5th, but it's not longer than the first one. So either this is 1, 2, 1, 2, which is the very bearish case, or we do have the potential for this to play as an ABC. So we have ABC giving us our A wave, 3-wave, and it's not pretty, but it's there. There's a 3-wave ABC into a larger degree B, and then finishing with 5. So essentially all I'm doing is I'm working backwards, saying I've got 5 here, I've got 3 here, I've got 5 here. So could this be an ABC completing? Well, if I work backwards from that, I've got 5 here, I've got 3 here, I've got 5 here. So potentially it's there, right? So so what can we do? So all we can do is start to build a case, a confluence zone here. So we know we have this algo target here, which would give us symmetry relative to that 5th if we're playing 1, 2, 3, 4, coming down into the 5. So I can look for typical Elliott targets relative to my wave 1 from my wave 2, right? So here was the 2618. We actually got through that with this little kick before we started the retracement. So if I look now, assuming I've got a good 4th in, I can start heading lower here. Well, I've got this cluster establishing down here. Here's my 1618, right just ahead of the dashed yellow line, which we know is that hard pivot that we're trying to hold above. So I've got that as a contender there, setting up for a potential double bottom. If I widen this a bit to accommodate the algo target, the negative 23.6 down here at 58.05, well, we've broken that pivot, and, unless we get a bear trap and then we just get a quick pop, the stops are run, they come down, run the stops, and then upon hitting the algo target, we get a reaction, which is that's not unreasonable to propose that scenario. That's certainly possible here. Is that would be a classic, just perfect bear trap. Run the stops, people start piling on, the trend followers take the break of the low, and then you just get a rip out of there because most people won't know there's an algo target there. You follow me? You know that's there. They won't know it's there. So potentially you have a textbook algo profit zone, and you'll see a reaction coming out of that. We won't be able to confirm it unless we come out of that in 5, giving us potentially a 1-2 to start coming out of the hole here. So this looks highly likely, just given this price action here. It's just seems to be, it wants to come down here and break this low here at the very least. So if we look at that, so that's I've got a confluence zone down here that's setting up between, let's call it 6,060 and 5,800. And so, it's a contender, right? So we got to see what happens at the pivot if and when we get there. So I've got this channel on here, so coming down, so this essentially works as a median line. So we have a potential confluence zone down here. So let's dig in even a little further. Let me go to the hourly and see what we can make sense. So if we allow for this coming down in 5 to complete the 5th, all right, so let me take this off. So I guess we can take that off as well. So here's our target down here. So if I dig into this now, I'm going to go to the 30 minutes so we can get a better look at it. So do I have good subdivision here that sets that up? Well, it's fairly easy to spot this. So here I've got a little 1, 2. This is pretty deep 3, but I've got a little ABC into a 4 here. setting up potentially for a 5. Now, the structure here is not ideal, because if this were to complete down here, and that would certainly be a deep 2. That could be our 4, but that looks more likely. It looks like we might have a 1-2 with a very deep 2. Right? We won't know until we see what's happening here. But this is all characteristic. This is typical of wave 4 activity. Problem we have here with this. So let me put that in a higher degree. Go up one. That if we complete this in the symmetry that's setting up here, down here, well, we're coming up short of the larger degree target. So that would be bad news, actually, for bulls looking for this double bottom scenario, because it would suggest that what we might have here is a 1 wave. Right? It's not far enough. So if we measure it, so if I take same as before, if I take the length of the 1 and I project it from my 4, even if I go to the 2618, which would be a true extreme for the 5th relative to the 1. Now, granted, we did have a very short 1 and a shallow 2. I've got my 3, 4. Right? We think if we're going to finish down here, even at this extreme. So if I put that a little hot box around that down here, and we drag it over. It could play. It could play here as this 5th, right? It could, right? We know the algo target is down lower, right? So it would. It's not ideal. It actually adds more fuel to the bear scenario, essentially, because it would appear to me that it would look like we'd be doing this. We'd be setting up, even if we got here, that would set up if we complete there, then we go back a 50. It would look to me like that sets up the next move down, right? You can see what I'm trying to get to. Looks like it would set us up to that. That's that if we complete down here. So we. If I pull it out, right, and we look here, let's go to it and try and give it context. So would that make sense? Could that potentially be our 5th down here? Yeah, it could. Yeah, there's no question it could. So we could have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 finishing here. That would keep us above that pivot. I'd rather we were completing down here closer to the low. But it's there. It's a contender, right? So we won't know. Right? So how will we know? Well, first we have to see if we were to get a pivot down here. Now, of course, I'm just totally hypothetical here. We don't know. But if we were to get this to pivot down here, when we went all the way, first we have to make the extreme in the 5th, which would be lower probability than something here, say the 1618 up here. Setting that up. What's the tell? How will we know? Well, do we come if and when we get a pivot down here, do we come away from it in 3 or do we come away in 5? Now, if we come away in 5, then that would add credibility to that scenario that we might have a hard pivot in if it were here. If we can come off in 5 and then we retrace and get potentially a higher low, we have the potential for that pivot to be in. We'd save the double bottom scenario, and we'd have a potential 1-2 setting up, which would lead us to the 3. But we won't know. We won't be able to confirm it until we get this series of a higher low relative to this pivot, higher low, and then breaking this to give us a higher high. And even then, still some would be suspect. We would need to break this pivot here to confirm this, to know that 5 is in. All right, then off we'd go. If it was going to play as a 1, 2, 3, we'd anticipate it breaking that pivot. So off we'd be going for a 3rd, and then perhaps a trend change. So we got to hurry up and wait here a little bit and see how we resolve coming down on this. So let me bring it back here. So what do we have here? Certainly this looks like 4th wave characteristics here with this choppiness here. It could be one more, 4 could be deeper, but we're starting to get, for that scenario, we actually don't want another leg up here because the length of time now, look at the relationship and the symmetry here from the 2 relative to the 4. One more push up and it gets all the more confusing because now it's harder to call that a 4 in that size and the length of time relative to this 2. Sure, we get the rule of alternation, or I prefer to call it the tendency of alternation, where we have a very simple correction followed by a complex correction, but the symmetry is wrong relative to that is a 2. This plays better, right? That's still right? Much deeper, but that still plays better. So hopefully what we've got here is a 1-2, and then we're just putting in the 1-2 going down for the 5, right? But it doesn't look great, and Bitcoin is not making it easy for anyone. I don't care what your approach is, but it's certainly difficult for Elliott Wave traders. And if you're an Elliott Wave bull, as I am, or pardon me, as a Bitcoin bull and an Elliott Wave trader, trying to come up with a scenario that allows us to bottom down here without violating this critical pivot down here is getting harder and harder. I'm trying to be objective in terms of what I'm looking at, but recognizing that the odds are there, and if we break this pivot down here, that 3,200 is going to be a magnet. So we got to wait and see here. So right now, just choppiness, just wave 4. We have all the ingredients here for a pivot down here. Do we break the major pivot down here? Well, that remains to be seen. So if you're not long, I certainly wouldn't be a buyer here. Given this, me personally, I wouldn't be shorting it either. But I'm just looking for more tells, more evidence. Where can I get a good probability-based trade? Where can I make a business decision looking for the long side with acceptable risk reward? And I just, staring at it here, looking at what we're experiencing, I just don't see it. I mean, this was a pretty sell for short sellers. It was pretty textbook. But now we're looking to finish this in 5. So pulling out yet again, where are we going? Where are we going, Bitcoin, right? So it's like, again, I wish I could give you something easy. Here's a great place to buy it. All I can tell you is we have very characteristic 4th wave choppiness here underway, and we need resolution one way or the other. I mean, there is the remote possibility that we've had this, and that the low is in. Very remote possibility that we've got that, and that we're trying to put in some sort of a diagonal as we chop through this. That's an outside chance. Truncated 5th, I think that's unlikely. So, it's there. But if that were the case, that actually, if you look at that sets up more likely to be a 1-2, and then the 5th is not done. If we were to be looking at that, and this were to go a little bit deeper, again, more characteristic of a 4th than a 2nd, but that's an outside chance as well. So all of it is really tricky to trade in Bitcoin. This will be the big tell. And there will be, as it unfolds, it will reveal itself. Right now, just cloudy skies. So be careful in there, guys. All right, that's all I got for today.